Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to the University of Strathclyde. I'd like to welcome you all to the Barony Hall for the ceremony for the awarding of degrees. It's a marvellous day, a day of celebration for you all, whether you're actually graduating or whether you're friends and family. Colleagues say to me that in the United States they call these events commencement ceremonies, and that they indicate the start of a beginning as opposed to an end. And it's in that very good spirit that we celebrate graduations at Strathclyde. In a few moments, it'll be my privilege to cap each graduand. It's a very ancient ceremony, very much a public rite of passage, and it's a real mark of achievement for all our graduands today. It's also an indication that they're part of a tradition of scholarship at this university, which stretches right back to the Scottish Enlightenment. I, on behalf of all my colleagues, very much wish you enjoy the ceremony today. I declare this congregation open, and I now invite Mr. Richard Hunter, convener of the University Court, to present an honorary fellowship. Please sit down, everyone.
Presiding Officer, I have the privilege and honour to present David Gray, a distinguished former member of the Court of the University of Strathclyde, for Fellowship of the University. During a career in business spanning more than 30 years, David has been an astute steward of finance and a courageous supporter of the implementation of change in both the public and private sectors. In major sectors such as paper and energy, and in Scotland's public water business, he has overseen success and profitability, often in challenging circumstances. Much more importantly, David was for 11 years a highly valued and respected volunteer lay member of Strathclyde's court, playing a major role in ensuring the university's governance and administration ran smoothly. To say that he was a safe pair of hands would be to understate the skill and competence he brought to the running of court, and for this, the entire Strathclyde community owes him a debt of gratitude. Educated at Glasgow Academy and Fettes College, the second best boarding school in Scotland, David then qualified as a chartered accountant, having joined the company known variously over the years as Thomson McClintock, KMG Thomson McClintock, and now KPMG. His early training and qualification as a CA was in Glasgow, from where he moved to London as a computer auditor before returning to Scotland in 1977. By 1983, he had become a partner in the firm, specialising in corporate finance, computer audit, and inward investment. Although David chose not to go to university full-time, he did spend 1 year of his CA training in academic education in Glasgow, at the place whose name shall not be spoken. I'm glad to say, however, that he redeemed himself in that year by also lecturing part-time in IT at the illustrious University of Strathclyde. His career involved a considerable amount of travel abroad, in countries including Germany, South Africa, and Canada, but in 1987 he moved to join Caledonian Paper, building and then operating the enormous paper mill at Irvine, which at the time was the largest inward investment ever made in Scotland. David joined Caledonian as finance director, later progressing to managing director. He developed a marketing strategy for the largest paper division and served at this time as director of the industry sector's representative group, the Paper Federation. The mill in Irvine, the only mill in the UK producing coated magazine paper, continues to operate successfully today, providing much needed employment in Ayrshire. A new challenge for David came in 1998 when he joined Scottish Hydroelectric as finance director. Almost immediately, he found himself leading the financial negotiations for the merger between Scottish Hydroelectric and Southern Electric, which created the new company of Scottish and Southern plc with a market capitalisation of around £5 billion. On the successful completion of the merger, David became Business Development Director for the new company, with responsibility for the process of integrating the two businesses and developing a new strategy. He also had major responsibilities for the contracting group, which had around 3,000 employees, the company's legal and secretarial department, and as chairman of the trustees of the Hydroelectric Pension Fund, which had £750 million of assets. Meanwhile, David had also been serving as a non-executive board member of West of Scotland Water and chaired its remuneration committee. When the then Scottish executive decided to merge the three regional water authorities into a single utility, David once again found himself part of a major restructuring. He remained on the board of the newly configured Scottish Water and was appointed chairman of its audit committee. David retains his connection with this business today, chairing the renewables division. David has brought strategic vision, wisdom, and drive to the companies he has worked with over the years, and this was publicly recognised later in his career by him being asked to help the then Secretary of State for Scotland with inward investment decisions through membership of the Scottish Industrial Development Advisory Board. He brought these same qualities to Strathclyde's court on his appointment in 2003. David went through the rigorous selection process of those days, of being called up by his former partner, ex-convener Archie Hunter, and I'm delighted to have Archie with us today, to be asked if he would mind giving up a couple of hours a week to serve on the university court. Unusually for David, his gullibility filters were inoperational that day, and he said yes, only to find out, as we all do on the court, that a couple of hours a week has a habit of growing arms and legs as one becomes more involved in other aspects of the court's processes. Court has many similarities with the governance structures of companies, insofar as it has to ensure that the organisation is well governed, well run, and delivering against its strategy. Court has the legal responsibility for this, and also to hold the university's executive team to account, and is itself accountable to the government through the Scottish Funding Council. Key to the role of a lay member is to discharge these onerous responsibilities rigorously while avoiding the danger of thinking you actually run the place, which is, of course, the function of the principal and his very able academic and operational support colleagues. David played an invaluable part in the life of Strathclyde for 11 years, devoting a significant amount of his own time to our various committees and processes. During this period, he was appointed Deputy Convener Estates and was at various times a member of the Estates Committee, the Court Business Group, the Court Membership Group, and the Remuneration Committee. He was a committed member of Court who provided outstanding strategic guidance to various committees and to university colleagues based on his own considerable commercial experience, particularly in the areas of change management and performance measurement. His contributions were always measured and balanced, and his advice was universally seen as constructive and supportive. David, we are incredibly grateful to you for all that you did for us, and your inevitably calm, courteous, and measured approach to providing guidance to your court and executive colleagues. Many of us have learned from you in the process. Outside his endless list of business and voluntary activities, David has been happily married to Jane for more years than she cares to count, and I'm delighted to see Jane here today. Jane also helps to raise standards in the Gray household, as she herself is a graduate of Strathclyde, gaining an MBA in 2000. Jane ran her own conference organising company for many years, including a very happy joint arrangement with our own business school. Nowadays, she is an accomplished full-time artist, painting in a contemporary style which David knowledgeably describes as wacky. I'm sure she'll get him for that later. Together, they have enjoyed a lifetime dedicated to sailing and skiing, and although David is, of course, considerably older than me, he shows no sign of slowing down. Presiding Officer, it is my pleasure today, with the authority of the University Court, to call upon you to confer on David Gray the University's highest honour, a Fellowship of the University of Strathclyde.
I now confer upon you the Honorary Fellowship. I now call upon the Vice Dean for Research, Dr. Anya Lowett, to confer the awards on our graduands.
Executive Dean, in the name of the University and by authority of Senate, I present to you these students. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Politics, Rosalind Margaret Tyler Gregg. For the degree of Master of Science in Health History, Louise Bell. Ian Ferguson. Simon Harold Walker. In European Public Policy, Louis Rennie. In International Public Policy, Gillian Herding. Andrew Stewart Maxwell. For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in English, Melissa Rose Alexander. Stephen John Elliott. Lettuce Philomena David. Michelle Elliott. John Loudon. Rachel Abigail Loughran. Jennifer Ann Maguire. Kate Alexandra McIntyre. Kirsty Beth McLennan. Danny Mancini. Lorna Helen Wallace. In English with French, Thomas Patrick Carnes. In English and Geography, Matthew Edward Evans. In English and History, Sean McElwain. In English and Journalism and Creative Writing, Kaylee Head. Jennifer Allison King. Cara Jane Swan. In English and Politics, Rebecca McCullough. In English with Psychology, Genevieve Cecilia Leonard. In English and Spanish, Aaron Kurgan. Gary Ian McCrossan Smith. In French and Italian, Claire Louise Kirkham. In French and Law, Alison Frances Skiba. In French and Psychology, Elizabeth Todd. In French and Spanish, Jessica Antonelli Duncan del Lama. Laura Dunn. Sarah Forrest. Nicola Fraser. Caroline Ruby Hall. In history, Bobby Bristow. Nicola Ann Canavan. Andrew Alistair McCall. Stephanie Alana Matthew. Rebecca Aaron Russell. Jillian Lisa Andrews. Craig James Carswell. Alistair Charles Edwards. Andrew Balnave Graham. Rowan Scott Green. Ross John Hanvidge. James David Hutchison. Paul Kelly. Rosalind Elizabeth Laurie. Katrina Lawson. Fiona Lee Mitchell. Carolyn Shedden Morrison. Nina Mamie Ann Morrison. Iona Rose Outram. Michelle Roberts. Emma Louise Robertson. Stephanie Andrea Smith. Amy Lisa Fleming. Robin Samantha Jane Graham. Rachel Hardy. Hamish Angus John MacDonald. Ruth Mary Patterson. Andrew Smith. David John Stewart. Natasha Leonards McKean. In History and English, Gary Carmody. Mark Andrew Gillespie. In History and French, Rachel Alexander. In History and Italian, Giulia Dominique Campbell-Poole. In History and Law, Daniel Patrick Cairns. In History and Politics, James Mackenzie. Andrew Stephen Breen. In History with Politics, Michael Joseph Connolly. Carly Finn. Hannah Martin. In Italian and French, Gordon Ian Donaldson. Sean-Louise O'Hare. In Italian and Spanish, Rose Frances Amelie McGinty. Chantal Bissett Guillard. In Journalism and Creative Writing in English, Hamish Walker Rhodes. Catherine Rachel McLaughlin. Ailey Siobhan Stewart. Kirsty Stewart. Daniel Morrow. In Journalism and Creative Writing and History, Rona Leslie Margaret Hamilton. In Journalism and Creative Writing and Politics, Michelle Buckley. Megan Devine. Aria Mary Dixon. In Politics, Saga Anita Barnard. James Hugh Cameron. Scott Greer Edgar. Ian Patterson. Amy Callahan. Ryan Cook. Marion Helen Craig. Simona Demkova. Andrew Graham John Ferguson. Catherine Alice Kieran. Bernadette Mallon. Jenny Deacon Muat. Alexandra Mary Rowland. Rory Steele. Åsa Erika Svensson. Samuel Robert Werngren. Nathan Wilson. Thomas Martin Murphy. In politics and economics, Duncan Cameron Steele. In politics and French, Heather Richmond Stephen. Gregory Clark. Bethany Rogers. In politics and geography, Liam McGregor Smith. In politics and history, Holly Brown. Michael Hugh O'Donnell. In politics with history, Jamie Ewan Hamilton Cuthbertson. In politics and journalism and creative writing, Thomas Ross Hornell. Celia Slepnyov. In politics and law, Kieran Joseph Jones. In politics with sociology, Ewan Cameron Purchase. In Spanish and French, Fiona Bingham. Louisa Devine. Beth Catherine Brown. Stacey Browning. Kirsten Fiona Campbell. Sarah Catherine Canning. Kira Jane Cuthbert. Helen Vary Duncan. Heather Alice Leach. Stacey McAlinden. Sarah Elizabeth McNellis. Drew Norton. Danielle Knowles. Georgia Cobb Robertson Porch. Lauren Christine Syme. Michaela Rose Anderson. Stephanie Elizabeth Duffy Gillen. Deborah Louise Hunter. Lynn Margaret Jemison. Kirsten McDonald. Jillian Elizabeth Mitchell. Amanda Smart. Kaylee Walsh. Lauren Henderson. Rona Christine McAvoy. In Spanish and Italian, Maria Louise Donachie. Amy Talon Stewart. In Economics and French, Alexandra Sakatova. In Hospitality and Tourism and French, Kathleen Mallon. In Human Resource Management and Spanish, Kira Monker. In Marketing and Italian, Laura Fragapane. In Arts and Social Sciences, Amanda Barry. Claire Mary Brocardo. Andrew Ferguson. Okay, sorry, I apologize. Amy Campbell. Now it's Andrew Ferguson. Sarah Gillespie. Gemma Robertson. Edward Toner. Louise Crawford White. For the degree of Master of Science in Health History, Rachel Hewitt. For the degree of Bachelor in Arts in Arts and Social Sciences, Alessandro Tronconi.
Graduations are marvellous occasions. Days like today don't come along very often. Everyone here will be so proud of the achievements of the people sitting behind me and the people sitting there. They've done fantastically well. You're so proud of them, so let's congratulate them again. It should not be forgotten that this wasn't easy. Every person that just passed over this stage will have had moments of doubt, spells of despondency, spells when they felt they weren't good enough. But one of the things that everyone that's passed over the stage has shown is tremendous character and resilience. And I genuinely believe that will be with them and stay with them for the rest of their days. Everyone here has experienced the moment when they felt they were the only person in the class, the group, who didn't understand that everyone else was on top of it. Everyone has moments like that. Not everyone comes through them, but everyone here has, and that's tremendous. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all to the Barony Hall. The Strathclyde campus is an absolutely first-rate one, and some of the new buildings in particular are tremendous. But for an occasion like this, I think the Barony is absolutely one of the jewels in our crown, a tremendous place for a ceremony like this. Graduation is one of the great moments in the university year. It's an occasion where people demonstrate they've passed from one phase of their life to another. Today is full of symbolism, and that rite of passage will be very much symbolised by the fact that while the graduands came in by one door, they will leave quite differently. They will leave as part of the academic procession. And that demonstrates that they've moved from one community to another. Many Strathclyde graduates stay in touch with us, and that's something we very much welcome. There's a very strong alumni community here, and we very much hope that those who graduated today will actually become part of that. And often, one of the things it can do is to actually help current and future students. The experiences that people have had throughout their period of time here, their 3 or 4 years, whatever, these testimonials can be invaluable in guiding future students as to career choices and as to the best way forward. That perhaps brings me on to the fact that one of the key things that people gain from a university education is a phenomenal amount of knowledge. But not just a phenomenal amount of knowledge, but the ability to absorb and soak up an awful lot more, and moreover, the capacity to apply knowledge, both for the benefit of themselves, but also very much more importantly, perhaps, for the wider community. The late Nelson Mandela once said that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And coming from a man of his astonishing achievements and utter humility, that's a very powerful message indeed. So I would urge all the graduates not to underestimate the power they've gained by acquiring so much knowledge and the analytical skills that have gone along with it. In Scotland, we're very fortunate in possessing the higher education system that we have. Our country has the resources to provide a significant number of universities and allow a large number of people to go to university. Globally, things are somewhat different, and we're actually perhaps rather fortunate compared to a large number of parts of the world. But even within Scotland, things are not all they might be, and it's very much part of Strathclyde's mission as a socially progressive university to do its utmost to make education available for all those who are capable of benefiting from higher education and going on to a degree. We take that mission extremely seriously. We've launched in recent years an engineering academy, and currently we are developing a social sciences academy. The Social Sciences Academy will improve our collaboration with colleges in this city, and by doing that, we hope to build on our very impressive record in widening access to higher education. We'll work with students from less advantaged backgrounds to help prepare them for university, help build their study skills, their subject knowledge, so that they can enter in the second year of study here at Strathclyde. We're also hugely concerned to ensure that students go on to meaningful careers, and we've been working very closely with the professions in law, social work and teaching, not only to provide a pathway to university, but also to provide a pathway to the professions. And I particularly like to acknowledge the help and cooperation we've received from colleges like Glasgow Clyde College, City of Glasgow, but also professions like the Law Society of Scotland, the General Teaching Council, and the Scottish Social Services Council. All these developments, I think, are hugely important, and all ones that we're all very much proud of. These sorts of developments, I think, would have been very much appreciated by some of the key founders of this university. If one goes back to the very history of the university, it's important to remember that John Anderson, our founder, established this university for the good of mankind, not for the good of any one individual, but for the wider community. A further historical figure who's somewhat intrigued me, I actually spoke about him last week, and I didn't actually know quite enough about him, so I've done a bit of research since then. George Birkbeck, who's probably better known because he founded Birkbeck College in the University of London, was also a professor at this university back in 1799, a professor of natural philosophy, and he went on to have an extremely distinguished career in medicine and popular education. While he was here, though, embarking on a tradition that stayed with us to this very day, he was very concerned to provide free education to a wider community in society. He provided free classes in what he termed popular science and what was perhaps known by lay people as mechanics, but the mechanics classes became extremely popular and is very much the way this university seeks to conduct itself, by providing education to a wider range of people as we possibly can. More recent graduates have gone on to play their inspirational part. If we look at the field of law, which for many years has been very much male-dominated, we're extremely proud of one of our graduates, Dame Elise Angelini, very much a pioneer in Scottish justice. She was the first woman to become Solicitor General in Scotland and went on to become the first Lord Advocate. And in a profession which for a long time has perhaps not recognised as fully as it might the merits of its female membership, that was a tremendous achievement. We're also extremely proud of Sir Tom Hunter, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Scottish history, but again, very much a Strathclyde man in the sense that much of his wealth has been used to benefit many people other than himself. For our graduates today, they may think that having been advised and cajoled and pushed by the staff for several years, they will now be free of the nuisance of receiving unwanted advice from other people. But sadly, that moment actually never leaves you in life. And one of the things that the graduates will have to do is to decide whose advice is worth taking and whose, perhaps like mine, should rightly be ignored. One very good piece of advice we received in the course of the graduations last week from an extremely distinguished honorary graduate who actually was the inventor of the mobile phone. His advice was very direct, very straightforward, very simple, but I think very important. And what he said was, be passionate about everything that you do. And he said in this hall last week, if you can't be passionate about what you do, why are you doing it? Do something else. And I think that advice is extremely cogent, extremely valuable, and I think it applies as much in your personal and private life as it does in your professional life. If I could be presumptuous, what I would add is this: be true to yourself. One of the things that the 4 years here has shown is that you've got real strength of character. You don't need to do what everybody else does. You don't need to follow the herd. You are your own person. Be true to yourself in life. And I genuinely believe if you do that, you'll be much more contented and better person for it. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that it wasn't automatic. It wasn't easy that people made the journey from freshers some years back to graduates. And People often will have received tremendous support from family and friends. And if it hadn't been for that, when people were feeling down, perhaps when people had financial troubles, interpersonal difficulties, if it hadn't been for that support from the numerous supporters in this hall, then some of the people who have graduated today probably wouldn't have done so. So I'd like now to ask the graduates to applaud all those that have supported you throughout the last few years. I might also add at this point that some of those supporters, some of the parents, and perhaps more particularly the grandparents, would have given everything to have had a university education, but perhaps in their generation that simply wasn't possible. And that's why, again, I think I would emphasise why widening participation is so important to this university. Going back to John Anderson, our founder, back in 1796, he founded the university on the principles of reason, tolerance and equality, values in a troubled world, which I think are well worth bearing in mind today. He also, as those of you who have ever looked at our note paper, he also believed in what he called useful learning. Academic scholarship, research-led teaching, all that was all tremendously important, but it was very important that those who came to this university should receive useful learning. In doing that and saying that, he was way ahead of his time. Nowadays, there's much discussion, much concern in university about the notion of employability. We are very conscious of the fact that our graduates go out into a very competitive world where finding a job may be difficult and finding a decent job may be even harder. It's extremely important that we play our part in making sure that graduates have the right skills in terms of employability, and that's something this university is extremely committed to do. All the academics here play a major part in trying to make sure that the modules in our various degrees embody employability and assist our graduates when they go into the wider world. I've mentioned a great deal about our students, and I've mentioned a great deal about our potential students, their parents, their supporters. The wider community is also very important to this university. We are not an island apart from the city where an elite number come here for education. We're very much part of the city. And in a variety of ways, we do our best to actually make that very much a living part of our DNA. So, for example, our award-winning law clinic gives free legal advice to people who can't afford legal advice. The clinic's tremendously successful and has won numerous awards over the years. It's also important that we do our utmost to make sure this university maintains its standards in all sorts of ways. And one of the things that we've been emphasising in recent years, and Richard Hunter and colleagues in court have been incredibly supportive here, is in a really ambitious capital programme to improve the equality of the estate. And last week we were delighted when Queen Elizabeth II opened our new Technology and Innovation Centre. It's an extremely impressive building. It's also a very expensive investment, but it's going to allow us to collaborate more closely with business, industry and the public sector. That'll bring all sorts of benefits and advantages, both in terms of actually boosting the amount of first-rate research that takes place at this university, but also in actually helping us to devise new courses and new teaching programs that are absolutely fit for purpose in the age in which we live. As I move to close this ceremony, I would like to actually again emphasise just how well our graduates have done. It's no mean feat to get a degree. The fact there's more degrees now than perhaps there were at one time doesn't make it any easier. So it's been an absolute pleasure to preside over the ceremony today, where there are so many bright and happy faces. And as I mentioned at the start, savour every moment of today. Today is a very special day, so enjoy each and every moment of today. Thank you. I now declare the ceremony closed. I would like, as I mentioned, our graduates to join the academic procession in a moment. And when they do so, I would ask that the family and friends be upstanding and stay in the hall until the procession has left. I'd then be delighted if you would join us in the Lord Todd for refreshments. And my diminishing eyesight tells me that it's dry outside, so we'll be able to enjoy something sparkly on the lawn, and I very much hope you'll be able to join us. Thank you.